Hi, my name is Ben O'Toole and I play Snapper Webster. I reckon it's the fact that like the surfing culture and the surfing world is kind of the backdrop to this story, if that makes sense. So the themes, I think, were kind of the most appealing thing to me. You know, these themes of betrayal, ambition, kind of coming of age. I think, you know, love lost, unrequited love, all those sort of things, you know, it's, having that story told in this world was really cool. I mean, the 70s is such a great time. I wasn't there, but I think everybody's nostalgic for it. So, you know, the theme of betrayal and mateship and you know, morality and what people compromise and stuff like that at that age, it's just so fascinating, so real and so raw. You know, everybody's compromisable. You know, everybody does sort of have a price, be it material or emotional or psychological, and it was just so rich, you know. And from that first episode, like moving forward, it was just like, I remember just being like, man, where are the rest of the episodes? Come on, what's going to happen next? This is unbelievable. So, yeah, and lots of interesting stuff happens, so don't just stop watching after the first one. Barons is about, in my opinion, Barons is ultimately like a coming of age story, I would say. A story about, you know, betrayal, ambition, love, mateship, you know, and all set to the backdrop of the commercialization of surfing in the 70s and the opportunity that was seized upon by some young individuals in the pursuit of just living their dream. You know, the goalposts kind of shifted a little bit too, you know, and the question ultimately being, you know, what is the cost of realizing your dream? Snapper's life, in a way, Snapper is living his dream at the start of the series. Everything's perfect. He is a leader, he is an alpha male, he is a charismatic man, but he also expects loyalty and knows what's best for people. Genuinely believes he's experienced a few more of the highs and lows than those around him, and his way forward is the best way forward, you know. So his dream is to just make enough money to get by, surf that breakout at Windies, and I mean, it doesn't really go much further than that, you know. That's the soul surfer's dream, is to just do what you love. That's what he's living at the start of the series. He's got his best mate, the girl that got away. Maybe he'd fix a few things, perhaps, now that I bring her up, but that's what his life looks like. Very simple, everything has its place, and it's not until things get thrown into disarray that he has to start making some calls. I think he's somebody as well that doesn't trust. He has big trust issues. So he doesn't trust people to make the hard decisions or the tough decisions. Right or wrong goes out the window. He's the sort of person that believes the ends genuinely does justify the means. And some people don't have the emotional and psychological capacity to make the difficult decisions, like importing drugs from Bali to pay everybody's wage. That's on him, and he feels that weight, you know. He's not proud of it, he doesn't love it. You know, he'd much rather everything go by the book. But sometimes they can't. And not everybody can deal with that, but he can. So just know your fucking place, and everything will be fine. Let me deal with it. You know, that's Snapper. It's interesting. I think it's because it's not greed. Snapper isn't driven by greed or ambition. I think it's more of a sibling rivalry, I guess, with Trotter. I have a younger brother, and there are times where you just want to rip their throat out, but you wouldn't change anything about him. Do you know what I mean? And it's, you know, the things he loves about Trotter are also the things he hates about him. So his ambition is actually just to be on top. And, you know, I mean, if they were into making pancakes, Snapper would want the best pancake house just to be in charge, you know, to be on top. You know, and that's his journey throughout the series is one of relinquishing control, and ultimately growing up a bit. You know, realizing that the more control, the more you can let go of, ultimately the happier you are, the more content you are, and realistically, the more control you do have. So his driving force isn't that, but it's definitely the sibling, that sibling-esque rivalry and with Trot, because Trot stole his girl, and he'll be damned if that man comes out on top. You know. Sean is a phenomenal actor. His emotional recall and capacity is, it's like, it's enviable. It's really good. And honestly, when he smiles, if you're not smiling, there's something wrong with you. You're probably dead inside, which is great. I've had a great time with him, honestly. The camaraderie, it's actually funny, like, after the first episode, you know, as we start getting into the feud, you know, we would say to each other, it's just like, man, can we write some scenes where we're fucking friends again? Like, they're so enjoyable. I love the guy. I've got so much love for him. He's such an incredible actor. I couldn't ask for a better scene partner with some of this stuff, to be honest. And he's so generous. He's very intelligent, you know. He's married to this story, and you can feel it. It shows in his work. He's so present. And our relationship is real because of it, you know. It's heartbreaking that it severs. I feel it. I know he feels it. Hopefully the audience feels it. But it really sucks when we start fighting. And I think that's largely because of how much empathy and heart he's brought to Trotter, who could very easily just be an ambitious dickhead, you know. Could very easily just be somebody that only thinks about money, only thinks about growth, only thinks about himself, you know. So he toes that line brilliantly, and it's an honour to work alongside him. Yeah. Oh, Trace. Oh, the one that got away. Or did she? We don't know. Stay tuned. Snapper's relationship to Tracy. Snapper loves Tracy, but the timing wasn't right. Actually, funnily enough, I was talking to somebody today about it, one of the runners in the car, and that song, Romeo and Juliet by the Dire Straits, I think perfectly encapsulates their relationship. It's just that the timing was wrong, you know? And Snapper made some big mistakes when they were together and they were younger, but he was afraid of something that was real. It's that funny thing of, like, something that's new or unknown is kind of terrifying, even if what you do know is traumatic and painful. You know, things that ask you to question yourself are kind of scary. And Snapper sabotaged that relationship because it was real and it was going in a place. Tracy's the only person that has seen him at his darkest, seen him for who he really is, and not walked away. And that's terrifying. So he fucked it up. And he's been paying for it ever since. I've loved working with Jill. She is so considerate. She's so generous. And the Tracy she's built is very easy to love. Even from that first scene, we have this one scene out when we're sitting by the fire, and it's been interesting with Jill, just sitting in silence with her in moments, in scenes, or just kind of catching each other's eye in a scene. There's just so much that she's brought to the table here, and getting together early before we started shooting as well, talking about our backstory and certain options and things like that. I mean, it's all really paid off. I've had a lot of fun working with Jill, and I can't wait to keep doing it. She is a dream, I'm telling you. you know, he is the life of the party, he is the ladies' man, he is the, you know, he is the OG soul surfer, but he has demons. Yeah, I think I think the most interesting thing has been exploring the duality of his character, you know. He is morally compromised at times, and as we all are, and he makes mistakes, and it's been a real joy kind of nursing this character through those things. Yeah, by way of prep, did quite a bit of reading and quite a bit of looking into the time, watching quite a few surf movies, which is great. Looked into quite a bit of Taylor Steele's work, which is good, just to know how pretty he was going to make us. But we also took up surfing, so I'm actually, well, you know what? I have a board and I catch waves. I'm now a surfer. So, you know, you can't say otherwise. If that's not a surfer, I don't know what is. But yeah, we took up surfing, which was really enjoyable. Really, really fun. There is something about catching a wave. I'm going to sound like a wanker, but there is something about catching a wave that just has you feeling like you're closer to God. There is something super cool about it. And I can't do half the shit these tricky bastards can, but far out, it's pretty cool. I've enjoyed that, yeah. It's awesome. Unfortunately, you know, this lockdown kind of happened just as we're about to start shooting. So a couple of us did sneak a beer in on that very first Friday night, just before we had to get into it, which was great to kind of bond outside of the material. But we've all kind of known each other for a while. I've known Sean for a couple of years. I'd never met Gillian before. Hunter Page Lockhart, him and I have been mates for a long time. Sophia Forrest, like I've known her for so long. But it's been great. It's been awesome. We're such a family and a team, and it's great that we all do know each other so well, because it just means we just don't have to do as much work pretending to like each other. It's easier if you actually do like each other. So that's been fun. Yeah. I think the 70s was such a time of change, brand new things. It was a simpler time in that there was more of a reckless abandon. I think our worlds were a lot smaller, and therefore we cared about them a lot more. I think the community was everything to somebody like Snapper, because he couldn't be in contact with his best friend on the other side of the planet. It was right here, right now. They were much more present with each other. I think there's a lot to be learnt from that. I do envy it. I mean, you know, everybody looks back on the 70s nostalgically, whether they were there or they weren't. The music was better because they were kind of making it for each other, not making it to be famous, you know. There was no such thing as TikTok, you know. There was no, you know, you wouldn't walk past kids dancing in the street. But if you did, it was because they were having a good time, not because they wanted followers, you know, or to kind of get brands to send them stuff. You know, I envy that time because I feel like people were more like people than they are now. And life, I envy Snapper's life in a way. I mean, they had each other more than I think, you know, a lot of people do now. People had to answer for their crimes back then. They don't now. They had a greater sense of responsibility, I think, in a way, even though they could at times be incredibly irresponsible. Yeah, I don't know. Those people are still alive and they're fucking awesome. This isn't part of the costume, by the way, but I mean, the costume, look, Snapper, so much of these are hair extensions. And Jaika and Terry and Teresa and Elena, the entire costume department, the entire makeup department's done a phenomenal job. Tanning us up, making it look real, you know, fake tan. When I first heard fake tan, I was like, oh no, oh, we're all gonna look orange. And all I could think of was Kim Kardashian, you know. So they've done a fantastic job. And I can say for myself, Snapper was always an idea for me. And I was very clear as to how I wanted to play him. and what his motivations were and et cetera, et cetera. But it wasn't until all of the elements were in place and Marion in costume, you know, building these, like these warm browns and everything for Snapper and his limited wardrobe. It wasn't until all the elements were in place that I could look in the mirror and see the guy. You know, it's like he was an idea and then he became real. So by way of building this character in this era, I mean, you know, it's unbelievable. It's so cool. So for Snapper, a song I love for him is The Joker by Steve Miller Band. I love Come and Get Your Love by Redbone. The Wanderer by Dion. I have been listening to, even though it's not of the era as such, but Romeo and Juliet by the Dire Straits for that Tracy Snapper relationship. Yeah, that sort of stuff. I mean, you know, the Steve Miller Band was incidentally my father's favourite band growing up in the 70s. So that was pretty cool. I've just been listening to a lot of them. They're great. And what a, you know, I mean, not a chore at all. I've worked with Sean quite a few times, actually. Sean gave me my first job on TV in Love Child all those years ago. Same era, funnily enough. Maybe I was born in the wrong era. I don't know. But I love working with Sean. Sean has so much trust with his actors, and he's got such a great eye. Like, Sean knows what he wants and knows how he's going to cut things together. And I mean, I've got to imagine saves production teams a hell of a lot of time sort of fucking around. And I love working with Sean because he's so playful and just trusts and has a great communication with his actors. You know, I hope to be working with him for many, many years. So I love Sean, and I think he's phenomenal. And Fadia, I got to say, I'm so grateful for Fadia too, because in the block that she came in and directed was, you know, where we really explore the Tracy Snapper relationship, kind of, you know, that's kind of, you know, that wound is starting to knit together, and she's such a sensitive, you know, lovely, beautiful person that she brought the right energy to that. She was the perfect person to kind of orchestrate that reconnection, I think. Yeah, I've been very grateful for the two of them. Taylor's a legend. Taylor was so much fun. We'd go out into the water, and that stuff that we shot out in the water looks like a Terrence Malick movie. Or people be watching Terrence Malick movies now going like, fuck, that looks like Taylor Steele's work. It's honestly, it's just awesome. He's got such an eye. I mean, as we know, you know, and the surf community knows, he is, you know, I mean, he's an incredible surf director. And we had a lot of fun with him one day. You know, we weren't afforded heaps of time, but where we got to just shoot a bunch of stuff in character on the beach before we go out into the water. And that was just such a cool opportunity to add layers to the character that we don't necessarily always have time to add. So, I mean, that was just phenomenal. And then Taylor would surf out with us, and with Chris Ryan, the DP, out there, and it was just so much fun. Barons is ambitious. Barons is nostalgic. Barons is a journey. Barons is a wild ride. Barons is a fucking good time. And Barons has been probably my favorite job to date. I think ideally what I would love people to walk away from Barons with is a sense of gratitude for those around them. And how much we actually do need each other. Ironically, it was Are You OK Day yesterday, you know, and it's I think this community, I mean, it's the one thing that seems to get each and every character and each and every story through their predicament is each other. And I think if I would want anybody to walk away with anything, it's just a little bit more gratitude for those that are around them, their family and their friends. Yeah. it takes a lot of strength to admit fault and to take responsibility for the things that have potentially gone wrong in your life in the past. And Snapper's journey throughout this show is kind of him growing up in that respect. And so that is something, you know, and I don't know if he's quite there yet where he truly does forgive himself for what he's done, but he's trying, and that's something I walk away with. That's a little piece that's kind of landed with me as well, is trying to be a better person. You know, I had this fantasy with Trace that whatever happens for them, you know, they don't sleep together, you know, but they've reconnected, that, you know, in a drunken sort of evening, Snapper sleeps with some girl or something like that, and Tracy gets really jealous and really angry, and there's, I think, an opportunity for a big blow up there between them, and he's like, what are you even angry at me for? I mean, we're not even together. You told me we're not even anything. Like, you make a choice, Tracy. you know, and I think that could really interestingly kind of compromise the growth that they've got. I mean, I want to see him. I mean, the feud's not over. You know, we just had a temporary truce. What Trotter did was unforgivable. It was the ultimate betrayal. Trotter's blood for Snap, and Snapper would bleed for Trotter, and to have him turn around and, you know, bare feet's his baby, and to start a rival business under his own roof at, you know, the wedding he paid for, there's no forgiving that. They'll have little truces, but I do really think he wants to. I think there's an element for darkness to creep back in, and I mean, power corrupts, and I guess it'll just be interesting to see how much it corrupts somebody like that. I think as well, with Snapper's propensity for violence and to snap, I'd be interested in seeing that actually on the side of good, rather than being maybe an inciting incident for another war between friends.